So, welcome back to 12 Hats Radio. It's Dave Monk speaking, and today we've got Brandon Burns from over in Geelong, Victoria, who's agreed to come onto the show. And Brandon, with all my guest speakers, can you give a 3-minute elevator pitch for what your show and your business is all about?
Oh, sure, man. I'm used to being given 45 seconds for an elevator pitch, but 3 minutes sounds very luxurious. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show too, man. It's great to talk to a familiar voice, a fellow podcaster. Obviously, I've reached out because I found a startup podcasting app that puts people like you and I in touch, guests and shows. I think it's called Matchmaker and out of the UK. And I'm obviously in the mode of promoting our business and what we're doing, which has become really, really relevant now that we're in, these circumstances with coronavirus. And for fear of sounding like every other business that's trying to sell or do something in these times, I'll probably just give you the pitch on our why. So My name's Brandon and I'm the head of community and growth at Runway. And we're based in Geelong. We're also in a regional centre in Victoria called Ballarat. And we also deliver our services right across Victoria in regional and remote locations. So Gippsland and Dandenong and Wangaratta and Warrnambool, South Coast. So we have a real flavour to what we do in a regional sense. And we're an incubator. So we're a destination where startups walk through the doors and they come to us when they're looking for an investor, for a mentor, for a coach. And they want to do a course for about 6 months that sort of allows them to collaborate with 5 or 6 other startups. And they can really conduct that group exercise to flesh out their idea and put themselves in a really strong position to be able to raise funds.
Okay.
I'll probably hear my daughter crying in the background, mate. And basically we've been going for 3 years and we're trying to solve the problem of how do we get people in these remote and regional areas more access to resources and mentors and capital. And it's something that's taken for granted in major cities. So we do that in person at locations. And now we've pivoted and scaled our business to do it online because we realised that we want to be able to reach the person in Mandurah, where you are, or the person in Tasmania, or the person in Toowoomba in Queensland, who doesn't even have like a co-working space. So we've launched runwayvirtual.co. And that's sort of what we launched that 10 weeks ago. And that's our attempt at trying to connect the dots for people who are isolated,
Yeah. And what's the startup scene like in regional Australia? If you can.
Yeah, well, it's great in a sense that there's a lot of talent. The one thing that's lacking is just density. So I'll give you an example, right? There might be a really, really good startup founder who's very technically minded and sound, but they recognise that they need a co-founder. Like most early stage startups, they need a co-founder. And so they usually can't find someone of a similar caliber, but a different skill set close to them. So the chances that someone maybe who's a perfect fit for them exists in their physical location is not a reality. So we help them join the dots to find someone who could be maybe their sales and marketing co-founder, but they might be based in Geelong, or they might be based in Tasmania or New Zealand, but they don't need to be restricted by distance and location. So that's sort of where we sort of join the dots so that the issue of talent not being around other talent is solved. But it is tough. Like there's not as many people sort of understanding of the entrepreneurial scene and a startup. A lot of people in regional centres still identify as a small business and they're proud of it. So that the word entrepreneur is a bit foreign to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we find that the talent's great. And also the most successful startups that we meet and find in regional areas are the ones that are solving a problem that's unique to their regional and their location. And that's a real point that we ram home on our show, is that the advantage of being a regional entrepreneur is that you have problems that exist close to you that you can touch and feel and experience every day, that someone in a major city is not experiencing or is not even thinking about.
Yeah.
So, we believe there's big talent in regional areas.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm part of a group in Mandurah called the Startup Huddle, and exactly what we're doing right now. We've got a lot of not just profit but non-for-profit startups. Like I've got a colleague of mine who runs a charity for stray dogs in Thailand, and it's all based out of Mandurah. Things like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's really cool, mate. I really dig that. So what's some
excellent.
more interesting projects that are out there in regional Victoria at the moment?
All right. Well, let's think about this. What's a good example I could give you? So so one example of how we've really given opportunity and created opportunity for a regional startup was back in May. We ran a competition with the city of Melbourne. So we partnered with a major city,
Hmm?
and they were running a competition to send 15 startups in total to go to Nanjing in China to pitch their idea for investment and for market access to the Chinese market. And they gave us the ability to get around to 5 of our regional areas in Victoria and conduct a pitch competition to reward one of the businesses who won tickets to China and to pitch. And I'll give you an example of the type of businesses that pitched. So we had one called Little Bumble, which was reusable food wraps,
Okay.
as in a substitute for cling wrap, that was fused with completely reusable material infused with honey beeswax.
Yeah, right.
So it's beautiful for the environment. It makes the food last longer, gives it the ability to breathe, and it replaces that shocking pollutant of plastic and cling wrap.
Mm.
Another business that went was a blockchain solution for fraudulent wine. So in China, up to 8 to 10 times a bottle of champagne or wine gets resealed and refilled and flogged off as the original. And so we had a startup that won a ticket through who protects the wine from the farm gate in Australia all the way through transit and to the palate of the consumer in China.
Wow.
Via blockchain. So that was another one. So I mean, some great businesses and ideas, and
Mm.
those two. One of those businesses is a startup, and the other one's a scale up. So the Little Bumble food wraps business has actually been in market for several years, and she's got clients and she's making sales. So she was an excellent person to take to China. Actually, I'll just add there, mate. One thing we did notice for your listeners, for anyone who is looking to penetrate the Chinese market, the businesses that did the best out of that exercise in China were the ones that had innovation and businesses around health
Okay.
and medical services and innovations. Yeah, that they seem to resonate, and there was a huge appetite for that in China.
Mm.
Yeah,
So so I'm interested to know how we are perceived in China with the Aussie startup scene. That's
yeah. Yeah, so I'll give you an example, right, to paint a picture for the listener and to give you a visual. So we were in a huge conference hotel room. Everyone was seated in rows. We're all given a name card. And then as the room got closer and closer to the stage, our Lord Mayor, Sally Cap from Melbourne, was seated at the front with the Lord Mayor of Nanjing. And then there was about 30 other delegates of all high titles. It was conducted on a stage in a really formal manner. There was multimedia involved. It was really cool, but it was very, very official. Beyond the actual pitching ceremony, they then conducted an exercise for a day where you could almost do speed dating, where you could book a time and go around to individual tables as a startup and visit individual investors. One perception I did notice that was held there was that we have great ideas in Australia. There's no doubt, especially when it comes to medical with research. What we don't possess sometimes is the ability to commercialize quickly enough or just in a good enough way to compete globally.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example, right? We do really good research, as you would know. We're probably leading the world, and we don't even know it, on a response to COVID-19. But we won't win the race when it comes to commercializing it and getting it to market. And I hate to say it, but making money off it.
Yeah.
So that's one piece of feedback I noticed. But and also just the speed at which we can execute things, given the type of environment Australia is. So, for example, we met with one guy there who was a property developer, and he talked about the amount of time it takes them to put a high-rise building up in
Yeah.
their city compared to the years it takes in Melbourne. He sort of almost laughed at the comparison. So, yeah, but we're perceived well. English was difficult. We had a translator at all points. That was something that was still a barrier, but very easy to get around the country, and also I would say in some regards they're a bit advanced than us. So, for example, it was almost a cashless society, and people literally use the application WeChat on their phone
Yeah, right.
to scan a QR code, pay for everything.
Yeah.
It's their Facebook and Instagram and Twitter all in one. So people just pretty much operate and live off WeChat the entire day. It's crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's quite amazing because I listened to another podcast last week, and on WeChat now they've got the traffic light system for those who've been affected by corona over there.
Yeah, right.
So if you got green light, it means you're either recovered or haven't been affected, and you can go out in society. Yellow, you've been in contact, and red, obviously you're affected. So they just scan that QR
Yeah.
code, and that's how they're recovering. And I'm interested to see that ScoMo's now trying to pitch a similar idea to us, which I think it'd be watch this space in the next couple of months. I think something like that would
complete control.
Complete control. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Like
but it was a great experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So, have you had any failures in the past, and what lessons did you learn from them?
Oh, totally, man. Yep. So I started off as a performer. So as a child, I was an actor and a singer. So I was on the first season of Australian Idol in 2003.
Okay.
So I made it. Yeah, I made it to the semi-finals with Guy Sebastian and Shannon Noel and Millsy. Yeah. I was on Neighbours when I was a kid, so I did a lot of performing, and that's obviously led me to have had and maintained a business in the form of a wedding band on the weekends. So I've had that for about 15 years, and it's actually been really fruitful and successful for me. And I think a big part of the reason why that business has been successful is because I've had a real passion. I've loved it. I've had a digital agency which failed miserably. What I thought was I left working at a digital agency and I thought, you know what, I've got a great network. I can go and get a bunch of initial clients and build myself a nice little digital business. Yeah, I can do people's websites. I can do people's social media. I can do people's AdWords. And I quickly realized that I'd put myself in a dangerous position with that business of just being a me too.
Yeah.
So I was like every other digital agency. I just had a little bit of market share and some loyal clients, but I wasn't really a master or good at any one of those particular things, nor did I have a real passion. I had a passion for the sales and the relationship side, but when it came to delivering, I had no way of differentiating. And that was one of the lessons I learned from failing that business, was that I wasn't specific enough in what I was doing and niching. And I didn't want a niche because I worried that wasn't a scalable solution. But I think before a startup or a business even entertains wanting to be scalable, they've got to at least nail being good at one particular niche, small thing, no matter how specific it is. Have a couple of paying clients and people that see value in it, and then take care of the conversation around having a scalable business. Because getting hung up on wanting to scale or needing to just stops you from taking action. And my lesson from that was to take imperfect action with every other business or endeavor I do beyond that. So much so that, when I do my podcast as an example, I just use Zoom. I just use these Apple headphones that we've got. You've noticed I'm probably not sitting in the world's most elaborate studio, but I've chosen to really push ahead with using that business as a means to build relationships and an audience through volume and association, rather than having the world's most sophisticated and best produced podcast. So the lessons for me has been taking perfect action and just learn from iterating. And but I've had multiple business failures, man. God, multiple failures in roles, in positions at businesses. Like I've been a salesperson for 15 years, so you can imagine that there's going to be positions in my past where I've had great success, but I've also had huge failures, and it's totally normal, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. And what's driving your curiosity right now?
Well, I would have to say that I am intrigued by what will happen when we return to work after this. And I'm sure you've had other guests tell you the same thing. But for us in particular, because we run incubators that include tenants, it includes co-working, it includes a cafe, it includes a curriculum, it includes an event space that's booked both internally and externally. So we're a high traffic destination, and a lot of people use us for transient working on their growth curve, setting up and growing as a business, and also established businesses renting office space. We're anticipating and assuming that there will be more of a need for people to want to work not from home, but work close to home. And so we're anticipating that, given we have a presence as a co-working facility in regions where people would normally be traveling to Melbourne from Geelong or to Melbourne from Ballarat, we might just be poised to take advantage of people whose employers now have an understanding firsthand for working from home and how it can work, and will give them the flexibility now to work close to home. So we all understand how difficult it is working at home, especially if you've got family, young kids and distractions. But that doesn't mean to say that you couldn't be just as productive in a facility like ours, a co-working space, which has all the trappings and the things you need, but still gives you that ability to be close to home and not feel limited by having to burn 3 hours a day traveling. So that's what's getting my curiosity at the moment. And then the other thing is, just on a more personal level with this type of thing, how do we now continue to make really good connections with each other and build rapport whilst we don't have face-to-face? Because I rely on this heavily, and it's one of my strengths and things I enjoy, is meeting people face-to-face and building that rapport.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it's been difficult to do on virtual means, but it's definitely been different. So I'm interested to see, whether this helps us get better at that, or whether it makes us miss it and want to get back to it, or whether this is the new norm. But I definitely can't wait to get back to catching up with people in my day for coffee face-to-face.
Yeah, I miss that coffee too.
Yeah, totally, man.
Oh,
I mean, there's only so many you can make yourself at home before you realise, oh, hang on, I'm actually drinking too much coffee during
right.
the day. Yeah.
Yeah. We need to have some sort of like a Star Trek sort of scenario. We have like a replicated, like a espresso machine right here, and just pour it every time we have a Zoom meeting.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then one with a beer as well after about 3 o'clock.
Done. Well, when it's 3 o'clock my time, it's probably midday yours, so you get an early jump on it.
Whenever the sun passes the yard arm.
So tell me about your listeners. Tell me about your audience, because I really want to make sure I deliver something here that really resonates with them. So 12 hats and yeah.
So basically, my podcast is first and foremost, I'm a marketing podcast. I'm a content marketer. So my podcast is aimed at getting other startups, get them to tell their stories and have a bit of a lighthearted discussion. Because I find that too many marketing podcasts are quite technical and quite boring, well, not boring, quite dry. And I want to add value by having something light and share a laugh, and just basically when people are all hunkered down, is just basically having a distraction from what's going on outside in the world.
I love that.
As for my audience breakup, at the moment it's probably about 50-50 between Australia and the US. Because I publish about 7 a.m. on a Friday morning here in Perth, but it's actually a sweet spot in terms of time zones, because 7 a.m. in Perth is what 9 a.m. over in Melbourne. It's 12 o'clock over in New Zealand, well, 11 o'clock over in New Zealand now. But also for folks over in North America, it's prime time. So it's like, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. So I think that's where I'm picking up a lot of my traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, I'd love to hear more offline about how you capitalise on appealing to that overseas audience. And that's definitely something that our startup audience would really want to hear also, because they're going to have ideas and businesses that are relevant to global markets. So I'd love to see that on Runway Virtual as well, mate. You telling that story, that sounds... We'll have to discuss that on our show. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So my biggest tactic is that I go after guests based over in America, so I can piggyback off them. So I try to get all the ones who interview, all the motivational speakers, all the marketing gurus I can find, and build it up organically from that. And actually, also I've been running courses and webinars, and ran one yesterday. I had not just locals from Mandurah, I had people from London, I had people from Los Angeles, I had people from Budapest tuning into my webinar. So it's just...
So if I had to say to you, what is it that you are particularly talented and extremely good at that allows you, content marketer in Mandurah of all places, to be able to attract people from all around the globe that see value in wanting to come and hear what you're doing? Are you a gun at Facebook ads? Are you a gun at funnels? Where is it that you're just absolutely killing it?
Audio content.
Okay, so you're telling me that you're getting people to attend a webinar all from just promoting audio content.
Promoting audio content. I've hardly even touched Facebook. I've been building up buzz on my show, and I've also been... Well, actually, I have been putting stuff out on Instagram as well. So I find Instagram's got bigger reach than Facebook.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And just, I think people...
Mate, what you're sharing with me, our startup audience would love to hear more of, because wouldn't you agree that creating your own podcast and using it as a means to build relationships and spread the word about your business is one of the most cost-effective and easy things to do? But people still struggle with the how-to around, I've got to take that first step. How do I do it?
Yeah.
So I can't wait to share that story on our show, because that will be incredibly relevant.
Yeah. So my whole strategy about this podcast is building a quality audience and a community. So it's not just my podcast. In total, I also have a Patreon community. And I just say, look, I'm just here. I just basically just provide value. I practice what I preach. I also believe that every business that markets also can potentially be a media agency in itself. And podcasting, vlogging, blogging, it's all about having that owned media space and controlling it. So you're not playing by the rules of Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, or Twitter. You're getting your own... You've got control of your own audience, and you're controlling your own mediums.
Love it, mate. It sounds excellent.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. So what's the end game? What does it drive you? Does it drive your business? Does it drive your new clients? What services do they take up? How does that all work?
So I'm just trying to inspire people to follow in my footsteps by leading by example. That's all I want to do, because I really want to take this podcasting to the next level, man. I want to build up slowly, surely, organically, to become a renowned podcaster. So like your Joe Rogans of the world, Gary Vee's. I like to see myself like that in 5-10 years' time. And also, I've got a background in community radio too. So I just love, as soon as I put the microphone in front of me, I'm just comfortable with it. It just comes naturally talking.
Great, man.
Yeah,
love it.
So, if 12-year-old Brandon was walking into the studio now, what advice would you give him?
Absolutely dispel fear and being driven and worried about it. So, I grew up in a middle-class household. I had a mother who was a school teacher, a dad who was a milkman. We didn't want or need for anything, which was great. And I did a lot of work and performing when I was younger. So I actually sort of had to interact in an adult world a lot earlier than before becoming an adult. But one thing I would say is don't let fear or lean towards fear as much as I did or you do, because on the other side of just pushing through is like huge advancement in knowledge and ability.
Yeah.
But, that's easy to say now. When I was 12, mate, like, God, I was a late bloomer. I was a late grower. I was a late maturer. So I was still, mentally I was there, but physically I was still tiny, mate. So I was battling a lot at 12. So I would say just enjoy more. Just enjoy. It goes so quick, as you know. You know? Does that answer your question okay?
Perfect, mate. Perfect.
Oh, good. Good.
And finally, Is there any light-hearted stories you'd like to share for my listener before we wrap up?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Australian Idol story, I was only 17, so it was the first season. And this was the season when the grand final was at the Opera House.
Yeah.
I think 3 million people used to watch it every time it was on. It created a lot of careers out of it. And I was so young to be on it. But, I mean, the story would be, as much as I made it sort of to the top 30 and got quite a way and people voting for me and everything, I got canned like every other person except the winner from the show, because only one person can win. But what an amazing experience it was to have then been able to capitalise on the notoriety and the profile and the bump and the expedition in which it gave me the ability to be able to be someone from somewhere. And so as much as we all watch these reality shows and we criticise and we make fun and we think, oh, why would anyone go on that? That was a great exercise in pushing through fear, because on the other side of it was just a ton of free publicity and, it's accelerated me. So I guess the lighthearted part of the story was you got to be willing to put yourself out there and get embarrassed. And but on the other side of it is publicity and profile, and now you can be someone that's done something or from somewhere, and you can stand out, and that really helped me.
Yeah. I think it's very important. I think right now that you use fear as your friend. It's what sells you right now.
Oh, mate, but it still creeps up, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I mean, you can either fight or flight, and it's up to you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, mate, and we'll look forward to returning the favour.
Yeah, my pleasure. Can't wait to have you on our show. And, mate, just for your listeners listening, if there are any people out there who are an early stage entrepreneur or even a business right now that's in survival mode and needs help, we've created a free platform, runwayvirtual.co, and that literally is where you can go to join a forum. You can do 56 learning modules. You can meet a mentor. And we've laid it all out for people like that. It's free to sign up. It takes less than 3 minutes. And it's literally a resource for us to help those people like we do in Geelong that are lonely, isolated in areas that don't have access. So that's my message today is we're here to help. It's not a sell. It's rather come and be part of our community, and we'll help you not be alone on this journey. It's tough times, you know.
Tough times, and the links will be in the show notes too, folks. Right.
Thanks again, man. Good to be on your show.
No dramas.